The massive observation deck of Kepler Station stretched across 3 levels, its transparent walls offering a clear view of the star-filled void beyond. Commander Veltara stood at the central command console, her 4 eyes scanning the sensor displays with growing concern. The readings made no sense. Something was approaching their station at impossible speeds, and her instruments couldn't identify what it was. "Commander, the energy signature is unlike anything in our database," reported Lieutenant Kexhai from the sensor station. His blue-scaled hands moved rapidly across the control panel, trying to make sense of the data streaming across his screens. "The vessel's hull composition is completely unknown. Our scanners can't penetrate it." Veltara's tentacles twitched with nervous energy. In her 40 years of service with the Galactic Council, she had encountered ships from every known civilization. The Zephyrian crystal vessels with their singing engines, the organic bioships of the Morphians that grew rather than built, the massive dreadnoughts of the Krix hegemony with their brutal angular designs, but this approaching craft fit none of those patterns. The ship that appeared on their main viewing screen was beautiful in a way that made her breath catch. Its hull gleamed like liquid silver, seamless and smooth, as if it had been carved from a single piece of metal. There were no visible weapons, no external engines, no communication arrays. Yet it moved through space with perfect grace, leaving barely a ripple in the cosmic background radiation. "How large is it?" Veltara asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Approximately 800 meters in length," Kexhai replied, his voice filled with wonder. "But Commander, the power readings, they're impossible. The energy output suggests a reactor core the size of a small moon, but the ship itself is only Corvette class." Around the observation deck, other council personnel had stopped their work to stare at the mysterious vessel. Whispered conversations filled the air in a dozen different languages as representatives from various species tried to understand what they were seeing. The Luminian crystals pulsed with rapid light patterns, indicating extreme agitation. The insectoid Vorthak clicked their mandibles in patterns that suggested fear. Veltara felt a chill run through her body. 3 centuries ago, there had been reports of a species called humans from a small system on the galaxy's edge. They had been involved in some kind of mining dispute with the Kelvoran Consortium. The official record stated that their homeworld had been declared uninhabitable after an industrial accident. The humans were listed as extinct in the Galactic Registry. "Commander, incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Zalthek, his tentacles trembling as he worked his console. "The signal is, it's in perfect galactic standard. No accent, no translation errors." Veltara straightened her posture. "Put it through." The voice that filled the observation deck was calm, clear, and absolutely human. "This is Captain Lee Hyun of the Terran defense ship Harmony. We are requesting permission to dock for diplomatic purposes. We come in peace and wish to speak with representatives of the Galactic Council." Silence fell across the deck like a heavy blanket. Veltara felt her 4 eyes widen in shock. Humans. Not only were they alive, but they were here, in a ship that defied every law of physics she understood. The technology required to build such a vessel was centuries beyond anything the galaxy had achieved. "Terran vessel," she replied, fighting to keep her voice professional. "This is Commander Veltara of Kepler Station. Your species was declared extinct in our records. Can you provide verification of your identity?" "Commander, I understand your surprise," came the reply. "We have been absent from galactic affairs for some time. However, I assure you that humanity is very much alive. We have much to discuss with the Council, including matters that concern the safety and future of all galactic civilizations." Veltara looked around the observation deck. Every face stared back at her with expressions of confusion, fear, and curiosity. The political implications were staggering. If humans had survived and developed this level of technology in secret, it would reshape the entire balance of galactic power. Lieutenant Kexhai leaned close to her ear. "Commander, should I alert the defense fleet? That ship could be a threat. To the station." Veltara considered this. The human vessel showed no aggressive intentions, but its very existence was a threat to everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. However, if humanity had wanted to attack, they probably could have destroyed the station before anyone knew they were there. "Captain Lee Hyun," she said into the communicator, "you are cleared to dock at Bay 7. However, you will be met by our security teams and must agree to standard diplomatic protocols." "Understood, Commander. We appreciate your cooperation. The future of galactic relations may depend on this meeting." As the beautiful silver ship moved gracefully toward the docking bay, Veltara felt the weight of history settling on her shoulders. She was about to become the first being in 3 centuries to make formal contact with humanity. She only hoped she would handle it correctly. The galaxy was about to change forever. The airlock doors slid open with a soft hiss, and 4 figures stepped onto the polished floor of Kepler Station's main diplomatic hall. Captain Lee Hyun walked. First, his black uniform simple but well-fitted, with no visible weapons or decorations. Behind him came 3 others, each carrying themselves with quiet confidence that made the assembled alien dignitaries shift uncomfortably in their seats. The diplomatic hall was the largest room on the station, designed to hold representatives from all 7 major galactic civilizations. Today, it was packed. The Zephyrian delegation sat in their floating chairs, their pale blue skin almost glowing under the artificial lights. The Luminians clustered together like living crystals, their bodies pulsing with rapid patterns of colored light. The insectoid Vorthak clicked their mandibles nervously, while the reptilian Krix representatives watched with cold, calculating eyes. But every single being in the room was staring at the humans. Dr. Park Min stepped forward slightly, her gray hair pulled back in a simple style, her eyes bright with intelligence. Chief Engineer Kim So-ra remained silent, her hands clasped behind her back, while diplomatic attaché Choi Dae carried a small device that none of the aliens could identify. Through the massive viewport that dominated one wall of the hall, the human ship Harmony hung in space like a piece of impossible art. Its silver hull caught the light from the nearby star and reflected it in patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. The ship's surface was completely smooth, with no visible joints, weapons, or external systems. It looked as if someone had carved it from a single piece of metal and polished it to perfection. General Carthon of the Krix hegemony rose from his seat, his massive frame casting a shadow across the floor. His scales were dark green with silver edges, and his yellow eyes fixed on Captain Lee Hyun with obvious suspicion. "Humans," he said, his voice deep and threatening, "you were declared extinct 3 centuries ago. Your homeworld was listed as dead. How do you explain your presence here?" Captain Lee Hyun smiled calmly. "General, reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated. We simply chose to step back from galactic affairs for a time. We needed space to grow and learn." "Learn what?" demanded Ambassador Velkari of the Zephyrian Empire, her voice carrying the musical tones of her species. "What could you possibly have learned in isolation that we have not discovered in thousands of years of civilization?" Dr. Park Min stepped forward, her expression friendly but confident. "Many things, Ambassador. For example, we solved the problem of crossing the void sectors without using jump gates or hyperspace tunnels." A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. The void sectors were the empty regions between galactic arms, areas where normal, faster-than-light travel was impossible due to gravitational anomalies and dark matter concentrations. It took months to cross them using conventional technology, and many ships were lost in the attempt. "That's impossible," General Carthon said flatly. "Our best physicists have worked on that problem for millennia. The dimensional stress equations alone would require computational power beyond anything we possess." "How did you cross the void sectors in less than 2 weeks?" asked Science Advisor Mextran of the Luminian Collective, his crystal body flashing with patterns of curiosity and disbelief. Dr. Park Min's smile widened slightly. "We solved the dimensional folding equations your physicists abandoned as impossible 400 years ago, among other things." The casual way she said it made several alien representatives exchange worried glances. The dimensional folding equations were legendary in galactic scientific circles. They represented a theoretical method of bending space-time to allow near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. But the mathematics were so complex that even the most advanced civilizations had given up trying to solve them. Among other things, repeated Commander Thexva of the Morphean Bio Collective, her organic armor shifting colors to show her emotional state. What other things? Chief Engineer Kim Sora spoke for the first time, her voice quiet but clear. Energy generation using zero-point field manipulation, matter conversion at the quantum level, gravitational field control, selective time dilation. Basic stuff, really. The silence that followed was deafening. Every item she had mentioned casually represented technology that could revolutionize galactic civilization. The Zephyrians had spent centuries trying to develop zero-point energy. The Krix military had failed for generations to achieve practical gravitational manipulation. Time dilation was purely theoretical for every known species. Ambassador Yeltara of the Council Oversight Committee leaned forward, her 4 eyes wide with shock. You're claiming you've solved fundamental problems that have limited galactic development for thousands of years? Not claiming. Diplomatic Attaché Choi Dae said softly, speaking for the first time. Demonstrating. Our ship crossed impossible distances to reach you. Our technology allowed us to remain hidden from your sensors until we chose to reveal ourselves. We've been watching and learning for 3 centuries while you believed us extinct. Through the viewport, the Harmony seemed to shimmer slightly, its hull reflecting light in new patterns. Several alien sensors operators frantically checked their instruments, trying to understand what they were seeing. The human delegation stood calmly in the center of the room, surrounded by representatives of civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. But suddenly, those ancient powers felt very small and very primitive in comparison to these 4 quiet humans and their impossible ship. The diplomatic hall had grown quiet as the hours passed. Captain Lee Hyun sat across from the assembled alien representatives, his hands folded calmly on the polished table. The initial shock of humanity's return was wearing off, replaced by harder questions that demanded honest answers. Ambassador Velkari of the Zephyrian Empire leaned forward, her pale blue features showing confusion. Captain Lee, our records show that human civilization ended 300 years ago. There was an industrial accident on your homeworld. Your species was declared extinct by the Galactic Registry Office. How do you explain this? Captain Lee exchanged glances with his companions. Dr. Park Min nodded slightly, while diplomatic attaché Choi Dae activated a small device that projected a holographic display above the table. The image showed Earth as it had been centuries ago, green and blue and beautiful, with its bright silver moon hanging in space nearby. There was no industrial accident, Captain Lee said quietly. What happened to us was not an accident at all. General Carthon of the Krix hegemony shifted in his massive chair, his yellow eyes narrowing. Explain. The holographic display changed, showing mining ships approaching Earth's moon. The vessels bore the symbols of the Kelvoran Mining Consortium, one of the galaxy's largest resource extraction companies. The assembled aliens recognized the ships immediately. 3 centuries ago, the Kelvoran Mining Consortium discovered that Earth's moon contained rare metals they needed for their operations. Captain Lee continued. They did not ask permission. They did not negotiate. They simply arrived and began strip mining operations. The hologram showed the systematic destruction of the moon's surface. Massive mining machines tore into the rock, extracting precious materials while leaving behind poisonous waste. The beautiful silver orb that had hung in Earth's sky for billions of years was being carved apart like a piece of fruit. We protested, Dr. Park Min said, her voice carrying old pain. We sent diplomatic messages. We filed complaints with the Galactic Council. We begged them to stop. Ambassador Yeltara of the Council Oversight Committee looked uncomfortable. Her 4 eyes darted away from the humans as she spoke. I remember reading reports about this matter. The consortium claimed they had legal rights to mine uninhabited celestial bodies. Our moon was not uninhabited, Captain Lee replied. We had research stations there, mining facilities. Thousands of people lived and worked on the moon's surface. but the consortium classified them as primitive installations with no legal standing. The holographic display showed the results of the mining operation. Toxic chemicals from the extraction process had contaminated the moon's surface. Worse, the gravitational changes from removing so much mass had affected Earth's tides and weather patterns. 3 human colony worlds in nearby systems had been poisoned when contaminated materials were dumped in their asteroid belts. When we demanded compensation for the damage, we were told that humanity was too primitive to have legal rights under galactic law, Choi Day said, his voice bitter. We were dismissed as a minor species with no standing to challenge established galactic powers. Commander Thexva of the Morphean Bio-Collective shifted uncomfortably in her organic armor. But surely the matter could have been resolved through proper diplomatic channels. We tried, Captain Lee said. For 10 years we sent ambassadors to every major galactic power. We presented evidence of the damage, we asked for justice. We were ignored by some and laughed at by others. The general opinion was that humanity was a young, weak species that would eventually die out quietly. The hologram changed again, showing human ships leaving their home systems. Entire populations packed into vessels and disappeared into the outer reaches of the galaxy, heading for regions that galactic civilization considered empty and worthless. So we left, Dr. Park Min explained. We gathered our people, our technology, our resources, and we vanished. The galaxy was happy to see us go. Within 50 years, our homeworld was declared dead, and our species listed as extinct in the official records. General Carthon leaned back in his chair, processing this information. You disappeared for 3 centuries. What did you do during that time? Captain Lee's expression grew serious. We learned. We studied every species in this galaxy, from a distance. We analyzed your technologies, your weaknesses, your political structures. We built hidden research stations throughout the Outer Rim, places your sensors could never detect. Choi Day touched his device, and the holographic display exploded into a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Dozens of points of light appeared throughout the spiral arms, each one marking a hidden human installation. The alien representatives stared in shock at the scope of what they were seeing. We established bases in the void sectors, Dr. Park Min continued, in the dark matter clouds, in the gravitational shadows of black holes, places where your ships couldn't go and your sensors couldn't reach. For 300 years we've been watching you while you believed us extinct. Ambassador Velkari's voice was barely a whisper. What were you preparing for? Captain Lee looked directly at her, his expression calm but his eyes hard as steel. For this moment. We spent 3 centuries solving the problems that have limited galactic civilization for thousands of years. We developed technology that makes your most advanced systems look like stone tools. We didn't die, Ambassador. We evolved. The holographic display showed the true extent of human expansion across the galaxy. Dozens of hidden worlds, research, stations, and construction facilities, all invisible to alien detection. The galaxy's major powers suddenly realized they had been sharing their space with a civilization they never knew existed. We're not extinct, Captain Lee concluded. We're ready. The warning alarms began blaring throughout Kepler Station as 12 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The Krix battle group had arrived, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. Each heavy cruiser was over 2 kilometers long, covered in armor plating and weapon batteries that glowed with barely contained energy. On the station's observation deck, the alien representatives pressed against the viewports to watch the approaching fleet. The Krix ships moved like predators, their angular designs built for one purpose: destruction. Plasma cannons along their hulls began charging with bright orange light, while their quantum disruptors hummed with deadly power. Captain Lee Hyun stood calmly beside the viewport, watching the approaching warships with no sign of fear or concern. His 3 companions remained equally relaxed, as if 12 of the galaxy's most powerful warships posed no threat at all. Admiral Vextor's voice boomed through the station's communication system, his words filled with authority and menace. This is Admiral Vextor of the Krix Hegemony Battlegroup Destroyer. The primitive species known as humans will surrender immediately and submit to Hegemony authority. You have exactly 5 minutes to comply, or we will destroy your vessel and take you by force. The alien representatives in the observation deck turned to look at the humans, expecting to see panic, or at least some sign of worry. Instead, Captain Lee simply activated his communicator and responded in a perfectly calm voice. Admiral Vextor, this is Captain Lee Hyun of the Terran defense ship Harmony. I appreciate your direct approach, but I must respectfully decline your demand. We are here for peaceful diplomatic purposes and have no intention of surrendering to anyone. A shocked silence filled the observation deck. General Carthon of the Crix delegation looked stunned that anyone would dare refuse a direct order from a hegemony admiral. The other alien representatives whispered nervously among themselves, clearly expecting the humans to be obliterated. Within moments, you dare refuse the hegemony? Admiral Vextor's voice carried rage and disbelief. Very well. All ships open fire. Destroy the human vessel immediately. Through the viewport, the assembled aliens watched as the 12 Crix cruisers opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked through space toward the small silver ship Harmony, while quantum disruptors sent invisible waves of destructive energy racing ahead of them. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. But something impossible happened. The plasma bolts simply stopped. One moment they were racing through space at incredible speed, and the next, they hung motionless like glowing orange spheres frozen in time. The quantum disruptor beams flickered and vanished as if they had never existed. The space around the Harmony shimmered briefly, like heat waves rising from hot pavement, and then everything was still. What just happened? Whispered Ambassador Velkari, her pale blue face pressed against the viewport. Chief Engineer Kim So-ra stepped forward, her voice calm and professional as she explained. Selective electromagnetic pulse combined with quantum dampening fields. We disrupted the energy patterns of their weapons, while simultaneously creating a localized spacetime distortion that neutralized their kinetic attacks. On the Crix ships, emergency lighting began flickering as their main power systems failed one by one. The great warships that had struck fear into countless civilizations now drifted helplessly in space, their engines dead, and their weapons completely offline. The crews are completely unharmed, Dr. Park Min added helpfully. We specifically designed the field to target mechanical systems while leaving biological functions untouched. Their life support is still working perfectly. Admiral Vextor's voice came through the communication system again, but now it was filled with confusion and growing panic. What did you do to my ships? How is this possible? Captain Lee Hyun activated his communicator once more. Admiral, your vessels are temporarily disabled but undamaged. Your crews are safe and will remain so. This was simply a demonstration that violence is not necessary for this conversation. Dr. Park Min touched a control on her device, and a holographic display appeared showing the precise energy readings from the human ship. The assembled aliens stared at the numbers in shock. The Harmony had not even raised defensive shields. Whatever technology they had used required so little power that their main systems barely registered the effort. How long will our ships remain disabled? Admiral Vextor demanded. Until we choose to restore their function, Chief Engineer Kim So-ra replied, which we will do gladly once this diplomatic meeting is concluded peacefully. The demonstration had taken exactly 47 seconds from the first plasma bolt being fired to the complete disabling of 12 heavy cruisers. The most powerful military force in the known galaxy had been neutralized with casual ease by a single human ship. General Carthon stared through the viewport at his disabled fleet, his reptilian features showing an emotion the other aliens had never seen before. Fear. This is impossible, he whispered. Our ships are equipped with the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. Nothing should be able to penetrate our shields and disable our systems without causing damage. Your defensive systems are indeed impressive, Diplomatic Attaché Choi Dae said politely. Unfortunately, they were designed to stop weapons and technologies that we solved the problems for centuries ago. Your shields protect against energy patterns we no longer use. The silence that followed was complete. Every alien representative in the observation deck understood that they were witnessing the dawn of a new age. Humanity had just demonstrated that their most powerful military forces were helpless against human technology. The balance of galactic power had shifted in less than 1 minute. The Great Galactic Council Chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 7 major civilizations sat in their designated sections, but the usual sounds of whispered conversations and political maneuvering had completely stopped. Outside the massive viewport, 12 Krix warships still drifted helplessly in space, their crews alive but their mighty vessels as powerless as children's toys. Captain Lee Hyun stood at the center of the chamber, his simple black uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and ceremonial armor worn by the alien delegates. His 3 companions flanked him quietly, their calm presence somehow more intimidating than any show of force could have been. "Honored representatives," Captain Lee began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. "Humanity has returned to the galactic community after 3 centuries of isolation. We come not as conquerors, but as partners." General Carthon of the Krix hegemony shifted uncomfortably in his massive chair. His yellow eyes kept darting toward the viewport where his disabled fleet served as a constant reminder of human technological superiority. "What do you want from us?" he asked, his voice lacking its usual commanding tone. Dr. Park Min stepped forward, activating a holographic projector that filled the air above the chamber with swirling images of advanced technology. "We offer to share knowledge that could transform your civilizations," she said simply. "Faster-than-light communication that works instantly across the entire galaxy. Travel systems that can move ships between star systems in minutes instead of months. Clean energy sources that never run out and never pollute." The images showed communication networks connecting distant worlds in real time, ships appearing and disappearing across vast distances without using traditional hyperspace, and power generators that seemed to draw energy from empty space itself. The alien representatives leaned forward in their seats, trying to understand what they were seeing. Ambassador Velkari of the Zephyrian Empire raised her hand, her pale blue features showing confusion and hope. These technologies, they would end the resource wars that have plagued the galaxy for thousands of years. But why would you share them with us? "Because isolation serves no one," Captain Lee replied. "We spent 3 centuries learning about every species in this galaxy. We studied your cultures, your achievements, your potential. You have much to offer the universe, but you've been held back by fundamental limitations in physics and technology." Chief Engineer Kim So-ra activated another display, this one showing medical advances that made the aliens gasp in wonder, devices that could heal injuries in seconds, treatments that could extend lifespans by centuries, and terraforming technologies that could turn dead worlds into garden paradises within years instead of millennia. "Your medical knowledge combined with our healing technology could eliminate disease and suffering across the galaxy," she explained. "Your artistic and cultural achievements could spread to every world through our communication networks. Your exploration efforts could reach distant galaxies with our travel systems." The chamber erupted in whispered conversations as delegates turned to their advisors and began rapid calculations. The Luminian crystals pulsed with patterns of light so complex they looked like living mathematics, while the Morphean Bio-Collective began shifting colors rapidly as they processed the implications. Ambassador Yeltara of the Council Oversight Committee stood slowly, her 4 eyes fixed on the human delegation. "These offers are generous beyond measure," she said carefully. "But what do you require in return?" Diplomatic Attaché Choi Dae stepped forward, his expression serious but not threatening. "Respect," he said simply. "The age of humanity being dismissed as a primitive species is over. We want equal representation in galactic affairs, fair treatment under galactic law, and recognition that Earth and its colonies are sovereign human territory." "And if we refuse?" General Carthon asked, though his voice carried little of its former arrogance. Choi Dae's expression didn't change, but somehow his presence seemed to fill the chamber. "The Harmony is our diplomatic vessel," he said quietly. "It was designed for peaceful contact and demonstration purposes. Our main battle fleet consists of vessels that make the Harmony look like a child's toy." The holographic display changed to show a star map of the galaxy, with hundreds of points of light scattered throughout the spiral arms. Each point represented a hidden human base, a research station, or a military installation that had remained invisible to alien sensors for 3 centuries. We have been preparing for this moment since the day we left our homeworld, Dr. Park Min continued. Every major star system has human observers. Every trade route has been mapped. Every military installation has been studied. We know the location of every important world, every strategic resource, every political weakness in your civilizations. The silence that followed was deafening. The alien representatives finally understood the true scope of what they were facing. Humanity had not simply survived their exile. They had spent 300 years building a shadow empire that spanned the entire galaxy. "We prefer cooperation," Captain Lee said, his voice gentle but firm. "We offer partnership, shared knowledge, and mutual prosperity. But if forced to choose between our survival and yours, we will do whatever is necessary to protect humanity's interests." Commander Thexva of the Morphean Bio Collective spoke for the first time, her organic armor shifting to deep purple patterns of respect. "You could have returned with force. You could have conquered us without warning. Instead, you offer partnership. Why?" Captain Lee smiled, and for the first time since the meeting began, his expression was genuinely warm. "Because a galaxy at peace is better than a galaxy at war. Because cooperation creates more prosperity than conquest. Because we learned during our exile that diversity makes us all stronger." The council chamber fell silent again as the representatives considered humanity's proposal. Outside the viewport, the disabled Krix fleet served as a reminder of human power, while the holographic displays showed the promise of a transformed galaxy. The vote would determine whether the future held partnership or domination. Either way, the age of human isolation was over forever.